All right, let's go. Decentralized Pictures Talent Cast. I'm Matt. That is writer, director, producer, and USC graduate Tiffany Lin. Thanks for being on the show, Tiffany.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I've really been looking forward to this interview, and it's great to have you on the Talent Cast. So give us a little background about yourself and your history to date with DCP.
hmm Yeah, so I'm a filmmaker born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, so a little bit like DCP as well. But yeah, I went to USC for film school, and basically a year after I graduated, that's when I found out about DCP. It was while I was in post on my short film Poachers. And since then, I was able to sort of like test out the platform. Ended up winning the first beta test, which was a really awesome experience. Finished up the film and have been just sort of working with them, in contact with them ever since.
Awesome. So I would definitely consider you like a DCP Film 3 OG here.
Yeah.
Getting involved definitely on the front end there with DCP. So tell us more about Poachers, and kind of that journey of making that film and deciding to approach DCP.
Mhm. Yeah, so Poachers was the first project that I started working on after graduating from college. I graduated in 2020, which obviously was like a really weird year to kind of go out into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and at the time when I first started writing it, which was around January 2021, myself and my co-writer Elias Ginsberg, we just really wanted to create a project that was very much our own, kind of free from a lot of other constraints of like school or other like different like institutions like that. And so I think like being independent about it was a really big part of how we approach the project. And so the film itself is about these two teenage girls who come across the unique business opportunity of illegally harvesting and selling succulents, so
Mm-hmm.
poaching. This was like kind of an idea that I had been sitting on, and then we both started writing in the beginning of 2021. And as we were putting that project together, obviously, like finding financing is always like the big question in
Of
independent
course.
filmmaking. And so as we began the process, it was sort of like a mix of different kinds of financing sources, whether there was like a chunk that was like self-funded. We were like a fiscally sponsored project as well, with this nonprofit. And so we did a little bit of crowdfunding, finding investors and things like that. And eventually we shot that project in June 2021. We shot that on location in Monterey, which was an amazing experience. And afterwards, we got home, started posts, and we're like, damn, like it would be really, really great to have some money to like really do this story right, like finish
Mm-hmm.
this film out in the right way. And at the time, USC, their industry relations page, happened to post about this like interesting new platform called Decentralized Pictures. And they were running a beta test looking for projects that needed finishing funds. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, I happen to have a project that needs finishing funds. So I went on the platform, looked into it. It was really, really interesting reading about it and just sort of like all of the different stakeholders involved as well. So I was like, what's the worst like that can happen? I just put up my project and like went through the whole DCP process, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, ended up getting the grant, which is really awesome.
Yeah, incredible. Definitely, there's some serendipity there that occurred. So, um, well, since you talked about graduating in did you say 2020?
Yes.
So what is I mean, I know COVID has been around for some time now. We're still living with it. So what is filmmaking like today in this still pandemic space?
Yeah, I think it's in a lot of ways it's both still the same but also different. I think like fundamentally, like having a good story, like needing to have that like imperative to like bring this to audiences like has not changed at all. Like if
Hmm.
anything, it's become more urgent in having like very specific experiences being brought to the screen. And like for me as well as a filmmaker, like I really want to think about like what isn't being told, like what's not in the space right now. And so I think that part like hasn't changed for me. But at the same time, I think like in the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of like institutions that we thought were like very solid, like for example, like school or like, studios kind of losing their footing in a way, or like not being as supportive as I think a lot of people needed. And so you end up having a lot of filmmakers and artists who are like trying to find a way to tell their stories in spite of like all of these obstacles. And I think like there has been this like really interesting like independent spirit that's been like revitalized, where people are like really trying to like get their projects off the ground. And like I see a lot of like fellow artists and friends also like having that urgency to really just like go out and like start making their films. And so I think in an interesting way, like the pandemic has really like jump started that, where you're starting to go beyond kind of your like normal institutions, normal like lanes of like trying to get
Uh-huh.
things made and just kind of doing it on your own.
Right, right. Definitely have to be innovative when the circumstances like that, change the status quo.
Mhm.
So you spoke at South by Southwest. So tell us about it. I know you were on stage with Roman Coppola and Leo Matchett. So tell us about that experience and what was the audience response to
Mhm.
that panel discussion? I think I wrote it down here. Panel on blockchain philanthropy. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the panel at South by was like a really amazing experience, super surreal. I can definitely say that like at the start of like making Poachers, that was never something that I was like, oh, like this might take me there.
You,
So it
you
has.
didn't you didn't predict that you'd be on stage with a Coppola, about while making.
No, I can't say that. Yeah, definitely not what I, like, had intended, starting out the project, but I'm not mad about it. Yeah, but it was, like, really, really interesting kind of, like, being there and just, like, at South by in general, because I think, like, this year, um, like, the, like, hype cycle around, like, Web3 Film 3 has really kind of reached like a fever pitch, and especially like at South by, where it's like the convergence of like all of these things, where it's like the audience is not just filmmakers but also like people within technology, like people who are trying to combine like both film and art, like investors, like everything. And so you just kind of like have a wide variety of perspectives coming
Mhm.
in. I think especially like this panel is interesting because it is sort of like it was sort of this introduction of DCP to like an even wider audience, and especially to an audience that like might find a really good use for it. Like
Mhm.
where at South by you just have so many creatives there. So it was like really interesting to kind of hear from people after the panel, and just like talking about like our experiences, like getting projects made, and like kind of seeing like what DCP might be able to be used for in the future.
Awesome. So you think the feedback was mainly positive versus, suspicious about this new film 3 mechanism trying to upend the traditional film 2 space.
Yeah, I mean, it is like South by, so you are sort of like preaching to the choir,
Yeah, right,
but at the
right.
same, yeah, I think there is like a genuine like excitement over just like what possibilities like blockchain might offer to like
Uh-huh.
the creative space. I think like Web3 in general, like it's been crazy like seeing all of the developments within that space over the past year, and like these like crazy amounts of capital like moving in and out of it. And I think like leveraging that towards like art and filmmakers, and like connecting that towards making like tangible like products of art and things like that is always like something that like is a plus in my book. So
Mhm.
like I mean for me, again, as I mentioned, like I just want to see more interesting art being made, and if like film 3 web 3 can be leveraged towards doing that, then yeah, it's like something I'm definitely very excited about.
Beauty. That's what it's all about.
Mhm.
So you were in a video with This Guy Edits, runs a pretty popular YouTube channel.
Mhm.
And in that video you talk about, there's a lot of good material captured there, but you talked about kind of the differences between, and I think he asked you about Kickstarter. Is this platform like Kickstarter?
Mhm.
And also asked you, or you mentioned that this platform, or using a Film 3 approach, you could remove the need to have an agent. So talk to us about those differences and how it serves as a differentiator from these other platforms that have previously been used.
Yeah, I think I think for me there's like two big parts. Obviously, there's like the blockchain aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
which is like very unique to DCP. And like for that aspect, it is very much like an audience like community forward
Mm-hmm.
way of like looking at like film financing and just being able to like yeah, connect with your audience like very early on. And I think like, like platforms like Kickstarter as well, like it is sort of similar, where like, audiences can find projects that they like and kind of like and like support them in like financial ways. But I think with DCP, like you also have a more personal response, I think, towards it. Like it's not just people aren't just like the goal of the platform isn't for people to just like like toss you like a few bucks. It's
Right.
like more about soliciting people's like ideas and like creating discussion about the content itself. And I think another big part of DCP is also like the stakeholders themselves who are like involved with it. It's like you have like American Zoetrope, like one of the most
Mm-hmm.
like legendary like production companies in
Right.
like cinema, and like all of the people that they're connected with, they're like really trying to kind of almost like bridge the gap, like eliminate so many like middlemen like in Hollywood, and just really connecting creators with financing to, like really just like kickstart that process of like having people have the means to tell their own stories. And so yeah, like in regards to like agents, like traditionally in Hollywood, that is like a lot of the times like you need an agent to like get into a room at all, like
Mm-hmm.
people don't really want to like hear, like production companies don't want to hear like a pitch unless like you are like brought in by someone that they trust. But I think
Right.
like with this again, like eliminating the need for like the gatekeepers
Mm-hmm.
and being able to like pitch your ideas to the community directly is like a really interesting thing. And being able to potentially be connected with these like bigger stakeholders
Mm-hmm.
is something that like I don't think you really get on any other platform.
And eliminating some of the financial barriers attached to needing an
Definitely,
agent to have those
yeah.
conversations.
Yeah, I think like even with just like crowdfunding platforms with like Kickstarter, like Indiegogo, things like the fundamental part of that platform is still like you are like financially like giving like something out of like your own pocket. And so it's like if you don't have those like finances to give, like it's not there's not as much of like a way you can participate on that platform. But with DCP, like I think they are trying to take that like accessibility in mind. So it's like even if like you don't have like like the liquid cash to like be able to just like give people money, like there are
Mm-hmm.
still ways that you can like participate on the platform. There's still ways you can like earn those like tokens to like submit your own projects.
Awesome. Awesome. So, if you had to predict, we're about ready to put a bow on
Mhm.
2022, move into 2023. What's your projections for Film 3 in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a space that will only continue to grow. I think like people are very interested to see where it goes. And I think like as like DCP has like they like launched this year, and like it's been like really interesting to see like the community base like sort of start to grow and like having more of these like rounds happening. Like it'll be really cool to see the projects that come out of it, and I'm really excited to like connect with other filmmakers as well who are part of the DCP family.
I know. And there's some exciting ones coming up as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so that wraps up my core questions, Tiffany, but we got to end with what's called Matt's speed round here.
Okay.
Okay, so don't overthink these questions. Just have
I'll
a
try.
few. Yeah, I just have a few here.
Okay.
So throw out the first, I always say the first one or two words that come to mind, but if you need
Mhm.
to go beyond that, that's A-okay as well. All right,
Okay.
so I thought originally this would be like a softball question for that would be easily answered, but as I've asked it, it's really, really challenging. So, what's your
Mm.
favorite film?
My favorite film. I'm gonna say The Big Short.
Nice. That came out easily. I think that's the
Yeah.
fastest response. And what a great film. I've probably watched that film 10
So
times.
good, so
It is
good.
spectacular. Top to bottom. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So the film production experience can improve by
Having greater transparency and putting the needs of uh, the people who are doing the creative and emotional labor first.
great answer. Awesome. Awesome. Decentralized Pictures can.
Mm, continue to support interesting and innovative stories.
I promise I didn't feed these questions to you in advance because
I'm just
you're nailing these things. Yeah. I need to come up with more
it's
challenging
like
ones next time we
I'm a
talk.
creative or something.
I love it. Favorite feature of DCP?
Mm, the analytics. I don't know. I'm a big
Ah, you're a
numbers
data
guy.
person. Oh,
Yeah.
big data. Okay. Yeah, I noticed how you were not afraid of talking about blockchain and yeah, so absolutely. There's a lot of that happening as well. So Leo will really like that answer when he sees this vid. Yeah, he'll like the analytics. All right, so the last question, and I've got another monitor next to me here, so I'm looking at your website, goals for the future. I
Oh my
love your
god.
first goal of get paid to make cool stuff. Isn't that like the ultimate dream for everybody?
Yeah, no, it's like it's such a simple thing, but like really like at the bottom of it, like there's just so many issues in the film industry that like stem
Hmm.
from like like people not getting like paid their like value and like
Sure.
that's like the reason why like no like when we talk about like wanting like diversity in film or something half the time it's like people can't stay in the film industry because it's just not a sustainable living and like
Mm,
if you are able to like really get paid what you're worth and like feel valued. I think that creates an environment where people want to stay and like continue to just like tell interesting stories. But
exactly.
that's my whole spiel on getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in that same area of goals for the future,
Yes.
I love this. Tell nuanced stories involving technology, the American dream, and or Paddington Bear. Not
Hmm.
necessarily in that order. If you had to pick number 1 from that list, what would it be?
Hmm. I mean, like right now, I feel like hmm. That's a really that's tough, man. Maybe
I
I'm gonna
finally
go.
stumped you. I finally.
That's why I wrote not necessarily in the order. But I think like recently, like it has been sort of in the realm of the American dream.
Mhm.
Um, that's been something that's like been on my mind lately and just kind of think about like deconstructing it. But I think like technology sort of slips in there sometimes. Um, but yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Tiffany, thanks so much for being on the Talent Cast today. You're awesome and can't wait to see all the projects that are in the pipeline right now. So how can people find you and contact you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website. It's lintiffany.com.
Hmm.
I'm also like pretty active on Instagram, so it's just at Timpunny, so Timpunny. And that's kind of where I just put all my stuff. I don't really like that's kind of like my main place where if you want to reach me, like I'm just like go into my DMs, whatever. I'm very much an open book.
Excellent.
Um, but yeah, I'm sure I'll see everyone around.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks again for all your support to DCP, and we will see you around.
Yeah, it's great to be here.